Hello, and welcome to the Classic Car Weekly podcast, the weekly companion podcast to the award-winning Classic Car newspaper. I'm this week's host, Chris Hope, features editor, and this time I'm joined by our editor, David Simister, and our managing editor, James Sadlier. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you both?
Greetings.
Morning, I'm good.
I'm also good.
Good,
It's
good.
summer. I wish I had a soft top, but I don't.
Well, we're going to get onto that, aren't we? We're going to kick things off as we usually do with a catch-up about our cars. And James, you've got some big news on the Polo front, haven't you?
Yeah, and I've sold the Polo at I sold it at Anglia Car Auctions last Saturday. And I sold my Peugeot 406 Coupe back before Christmas. I wanted to sell both of my classics so I could put the money together and buy something that I've been lusting after for a long time, which is a Mark 1 Audi TT. So
is that going to be a coupe or is that going to be a soft top?
right now I'm thinking it'd be perfect for a soft top, but I've always liked the tin top. I've always loved the shape, the curves, and they've aged well. I feel like it's a timeless design. I hear good things about their longevity and how the one thing I've spoken to garages about lately is that parts are starting to slim down a bit, parts availability. But yeah, so the Polo is gone, but and we'll probably transition into this later, but it's actually gone to a chap who's bought it for his son as his first car, who's into classics, which I thought was fantastic.
Excellent.
And so I'm really pleased it's gone to a good home.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, that's really, really great to hear, mate.
Yeah.
It's good to hear. I remember the first time we clapped eyes on that Polo. It was a very rainy day in Blackpool, and it's been a good little car. It's former CCW Challenge car, and then you bought it, James, and you've done many things with it, and now it's continuing to inspire enthusiasts. So it's quite a nice continuation of that car's story.
So what was it? It was May. Was it May 2022? So 3 years you've had it.
Yes, mate. Was it 22 or 21, David? I can't remember now. I think it was 21.
I
No, it
think
was
it's
22.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. It feels like I've had it for longer than I have. And I did love it. It was very much, while the Peugeot was kind of in and out of being fixed, the Polo saved me for. And it was just such a great runner. The engine, whenever I took it to a garage, whatever mechanic was working on it said the engine was in superb condition for its age. It was, kind of around the 60,000 mile mark as well. So, and it was, yeah, like I say, I've done a few bits on it just to keep it maintenance up. So it's been, yeah, it's really.
It's that idea that it's your daily that was never designed to be a daily.
I know, and it performed well as a daily. And it was great. It was quite comfortable. I mean, I took it on long trips from one side of the country to the other, and enjoyed Devon. It was it was great. The reason I wanted it was because my grandpa had a Mark II Polo bread van, and I remember being taken to school in one. So to drive one myself was quite special.
Yeah, it was that nostalgia that sort of drove you towards it, sort of thing. So yeah.
And I did try to sleep in it once. I put the seats down, and you can fit a 6'1" man, in.
Yeah, fit comfortably or just fit?
I don't think. Yeah, comfort. Yeah, comfort.
There you go. That's the answer.
Comfort is relative here.
That's a whole other story, but it is possible. Yeah.
Nice. And David, you've been out and about again. This time you've been to Coffee and Chrome Meet at the impressive Impney Estate in Worcestershire. You care to tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very good. Very busy meet, more than 500 cars. So yeah, really good turnout there. And the other latest thing I've been doing, sort of in my world as well, is I took the mighty Toyota events down to our own coffee meet, which is Coffee and Cars Withall. So I was there with my Avensis, and Richie Barnett, our market editor, he was there too in his Daihatsu 4-track. That was a really good meet. That was Transport Museum Withall, which is in Worcestershire. That was last Sunday, and again, it was a really good turnout. There were lots of different cars. There were I think the oldest one was an Austin 12.4 Clifton, but they had lots of. It was a beautiful old Bristol there as well, Daimler XJ, Daimler Coupe as well, which again, there's some really eye-catching cars there, and the thing that always impresses me with these meets is just the variety of cars that turn out. There was, I think my favourite from the day was probably a lovely Mark II Ford Zephyr, which was very eye-catching, which again really impressed me. So lots of stuff, and it's great to see that the season is very much in full swing now as well.
Yeah, I mean, you seem to be going to a lot of these sort of cars and coffee meets at the moment. I mean, what's your take on them as a whole?
I think it's a very important, increasingly important part of how the movement works, and I think the resulting element that can struggle sometimes are the more static shows where you have to pay to get in, and if those aren't sort of evolving, moving with times, when we've done stories in previous weeks where people have complained about the fact that they're now being asked to pay to take part in classic car shows, which can be a bit of a bone of contention sometimes with classic car owners when they feel that they are bringing along the exhibit. But
Yeah, an attraction that brings people through the door.
yeah, but again, that's where, that's where you have to balance. The organisers have to balance doing that with the costs of public liability insurance and the cost of
Yeah,
venue hire and getting people to man the gates and all those kind of things. Whereas I think obviously the great thing with coffee meets is that it's free of charge to turn up. You might not get as many bells and whistles as you would with a big show, but the venue is all there, and it's just a case of you rock up and then you go and get a bacon butty. It's as simple as
yeah.
that.
But you got the rest of the day, well, most of the day anyway. I mean, Cars and Coffee with all is sort of 9 till 11, is that right? So,
Mm,
yeah, you can
yeah.
you can go, you can have a chat with some fellow enthusiasts, and then you can do something else with the rest of your day, be it with the family, be it go on to something else that's car related, entirely up to you.
Exactly. That's what these things are all about, and we have seen quite a lot of these. I mean, H&H Classics has just launched a breakfast meet as well. I know they've had some success with that. So again, it just seems to be quite an important way of engaging with the enthusiasts, I think.
Yeah, cool. Well, the next one for Withall is Sunday, the 20th of July. You just turn up. There's no pre-booking required, so that's Withall Transport Museum. As for Coffee and Chrome, their next one's on August 10th. David, how do listeners book tickets for that? Is that
So that is very much a case of you have a look on. So go online and look for FJ Coffee and Chrome Collective. There's a way you can register for tickets online. The thing I would note with that as well is it's a case of really keep you, if you want to go to that, be quick with that one, because the tickets sell out really quickly. I think
yeah,
it's usually within the hours, not days.
yeah,
So because they are free of charge.
yeah, cool. Awesome. So yeah, plenty of dates for the diary there. Um, in terms of your highlight from the Coffee and Chrome meet, David, you mentioned it was a 1924 sort of Ford Model T. Really, just sort of demonstrates the variety of cars on show, doesn't it? So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with those Footman James meets in particular, I think they have more of a focus on newer metal than our own meet. So you really do get a bit of everything with those meets. Sort of everything from, as I say, brass era cars like Model Ts, and I've seen things like Austin Sevens and so on there before, right through to sort of brand new sort of BMWs, Dodge Chargers, that sort of thing. And they're very good for US metal as well, I've found.
yeah, excellent. I mean, our colleague Jesse Billington, staff writer, will be thrilled to hear about that. He's definitely got a weak spot for American tin. My mini star hasn't done that much. I mean, it was earlier this month now that it did the London to Brighton Classic Car Run. James, you and I sort of did that. It was an adventure that we both sort of enjoyed. It's something that readers can find out all about in this issue that's on sale today, Wednesday, the 18th of June. Yeah, just a bit of behind the scenes sort of thing, mate. What was your highlight from the run?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. I felt the longer I was in the Mini, the more I was enjoying it. At first, it's a bit, you come from even a Polo, it's a big transition from a Polo to a Mini. After a while, you just, it's infectious. The car just gets you, and you just, the more you're in it, the more you love it. And I didn't expect that. And even with your driving, no, I'm kidding. But no, it was great, and it just handled the road so beautifully. And I just sat there because I was passenger for the whole thing. I didn't even want to drive it. I just loved kind of sweeping through some of those B roads, and yeah, just as you drive down into Madeira Drive in Brighton, and just getting all those looks and everyone, checking it out. It's great fun.
Well, it wasn't just that. I mean, you hopped out so that you could very kindly get some very nice photos of the Mini arriving. So
Mm,
it was about one of the few sort of bits of the run where I was actually by myself, and I sort of arrived on Madeira Drive, and it's just the number of people. Like,
mm.
I think most of them sort of, some of them might have been aware that there was going to be sort of, all these cars showing up, but I'm fairly sure most of them didn't. And just all these people that were sort of lining the fences and just sort of like keen to chat to you, and just sort of like as immediate as I'm sort of parked up and getting pounced on by people say, "Oh, I remember that. I remember that. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. It's brilliant. It's brilliant." So yeah, no, it sounds ridiculous, but I felt like a bit of a celebrity.
Yeah.
It was absolutely brilliant sort of thing. And I mean, yeah, the comedy moment that I didn't include in the report was I was attempting to juggle 2 cups of Starbucks while negotiating Hilly Brighton. That was quite an event as well, wasn't it? So.
Oh yeah, I do realise I'm used to even some the odd modern classic I've had has had a cup holder, but I was your cup holder for a while, and there's the odd kind of pothole and speed bump, and coffee tends to go upwards sometimes. So I was kind of balancing those, but it was I think. Especially with the mini fuel tank, we were quite conscious of such a long journey
Yeah.
to ensure that we always had enough fuel and we weren't looking for petrol stations for the mini. But yeah, that feeling of the halfway point was great fun as well. It
Mm.
was just superb. I can't remember the name of it. The kind of
Rural Life
farm
Museum.
museum, rural, yeah, that's it, the Rural Life Museum. And yeah, there's plenty of attention, plenty of turning heads, and lots of other classics waving their hands at you, honking their horns, flashing their lights. It's great.
And
It's
there's,
such a
I
good.
mean, there's few sort of scenarios where you're sort of, interviewing owners and they're dressed up as the Pope and a nun.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah,
Anyway, you can read
exactly.
more about all of that in this issue. I want to get onto some of the bigger news stories that we've got covered in this
Sure.
issue. And the one this time that we've selected as our lead is the call that has been made by classic car insurers to provide younger enthusiasts in particular with the information they need to lower the cost of their classic car insurance. David, do you care to tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, so this was something that came out. So this was something that came out of the HCVA, the Historic and Classic Vehicle Alliance. They have an event called Heritage Matters, where it's sort of a big conference for industry experts from across the classic car movement. And this was a conversation that three of the classic car insurance representatives had there, and they were talking in very frank terms actually about what happens if more isn't being done to get sort of these sort of younger enthusiasts, people in their late teens and their 20s in particularly, into classic cars when this is the point when they're making their formative steps into our movement. And I'm sure you guys will know just as I have that when you're in your late teens and your early 20s, it's blooming difficult to get insurance, particularly
Yeah.
on sort of the
Absolutely.
more enthusiast driven cars. And I think it was Andy Cooper, who's the head of motor trade insurance at Locks, and he was saying, he put it as simply as this: if we don't get youngsters into our old cars, the industry dies. And he put it
Mhm.
as bluntly as that. And and there is a lot of work to do around that. And I think it was that was a real recognition of the fact that they have to work a lot harder to get more of these 20 somethings in, not to go out and buy 15-year-old hot hatches and rag them between the traffic lights on a Friday night, but people who actually value classic cars and maybe have grown up with them or they work with them,
Yeah.
about being
Mm.
able to get them behind the wheel. How do we make that happen?
Yeah,
Plan to go to some of these sort of cars and coffee meets that we're talking about. So.
Yeah.
when I was 17, 18, they couldn't even comprehend the insurance of driving a classic car. So to hear members of the insurance companies talking like this is very positive. And
Mm.
actually, I've speaking of coffee and coffee morning meets for classic cars. I went to one on Sunday as well, and I met a chap who has owned a Porsche 924S, and he bought a second 924S for his now 16, 17 I think he's 17-year-old son.
Right.
And when he was a few years ago now, and the two of them have been working on it together since his son was 12 through to now when he's able to drive the car. And it was such a beautiful story about,
Yeah.
it's like, right, I'm going to get my son. But it's a great way of him interacting with his son over the last few years.
Yeah, but isn't that the advice that insurers are giving, David? The idea that if it is, rather than saying I'm 17 years old and I own this Porsche 924, to tell them that it's a car that my dad bought. We worked on it together. I've been involved with it for the past 5 years. It seems to me that from what I've read in the article, its context is key, and if you can sort of relay this information, it's certainly not going to do any harm, and it might result in a cheaper quote.
Data is everything on this one, and the more data an insurance company has, the more likely they're going to be able to provide you with a policy that actually reflects the reality of what you're doing with it. And as you say, if you just say you're 17 years old and you've got a Porsche, that's not, they will just assume the worst and think that you're about to wrap that round a tree on a Friday night. If, on the other hand, you say, I'm a member of the Porsche 94 Owners Club, I've had this car, my dad had it, we've restored it together. I only use it for 1,500 miles a year. I've got a diesel Skoda Octavia that I use during the week. All of those things that kind of reduce the likelihood of you being going out and using it as a thing to sort of race people away from the lights from. All of the things that reduce the likelihood of that are more likely to reduce the premium that you've got. So that's the thing. So the things that they're looking for are members of owners clubs, people who've got provenance and history with classic cars, people who might work in the industry, for example. That's all the things they need to know about. And the other thing, which is I know all of them mentioned as well, is that they are increasingly working with clubs to offer specialist memberships and policies, which again will help to bring down the cost if you're a young enthusiast.
Yeah, I mean, we're so used to having everything we want at the click of a button sort of thing, but this is one of those instances where it's well worth avoiding the price comparison websites. Yeah, they might be able to sort of get you something in 15 minutes, but if it's an extortionate quote that's unusable, then you basically wasted 15 minutes of your time. Far better to have a 15-minute chat on the phone with one of these insurers who can perhaps sort of tailor something that's going to be actually sort of useful for you. So yeah, definitely. I mean, following on from this, we've also covered the story of how the Stag Owners Club has joined a number of UK Classic Car Owners Club in introducing a young person's register. David, again, why is it that the Stag Owners Club has taken this decision?
Well, I think it's a reflection of what's happening in the wider industry. I mean, the figures I'm about to quote will, in a couple of months, have to be updated because these come from the National Historic Vehicle Survey, which, as we know, that's currently they've just done a new one that's going to be pushed in September. But certainly, the most recent data from that suggests that the age of the average classic car owner is rising, and that is demographically that's a problem for our industry because it means that if the people who own things like Triumph Stags and MGVs are on average getting older and older, it means that actually that transfer of wealth and of metal isn't happening at the moment. It means that younger people aren't getting into the lovely old cars that we value in probably the rates that we probably need them to. And in a world where fewer people are passing their test in manual cars and wallets are being squeezed, that is an issue because it means that there are fewer people in their sort of their teens and 20s and early 30s who are coming into the movement, and that means that potentially we might not have as many sort of custodians for these cars in the future. So that's why clubs are doing so much at the moment to encourage younger members. I think the Stag Owners Club doing that, doing this is great. They follow in the footsteps of some clubs that are already doing some great work. I'm thinking the Morris Minor Owners Club and the MG Car Club in particular, they have some really thriving young people sections.
Yeah.
And they're really good because they're gateways into our hobby. They encourage people. They show that it's not just a hobby which is associated with a particular demographic or a particular type of car. You can get out there, you can have these old cars, and you can have fun with them no matter what your age or your background is.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you sort of say that. I mean, having sort of looked at the story, the reason why the Stag Club are doing this is as much, the primary goal is to, as you said, ensure knowledge is preserved, it's passed on, and it'd be a great shame for all of this effort, all of this expertise just to be lost to time. That's absolutely the case. But by having that a younger section with, dealing with enthusiasts that might not typically have as much expendable cash as some older enthusiasts, the membership secretary, Peter Robinson, he sort of states that it's about breaking that perception that stags can be expensive as well. He puts it to us that you can get a roadworthy example for about £4,000, and that feels like something of a bargain for the car that you're getting.
Yeah, and I think another important part of this as well is that because of the way technology and society has changed, actually, I think people, particularly younger enthusiasts, aren't as likely to engage with the club in the traditional sense that they would have done maybe 10 or 15 years ago. They're more likely nowadays, rather than going in the same way we're talking, they might not necessarily go to a static big car show with a club display. They might go to a coffee meet, for example, or to get tips, they might not necessarily go to the club and ask the parts secretary and ring them up. What they might do is they might go onto a Facebook group or go onto YouTube and try and find a video, a how-to explaining it. So those people that are doing that aren't necessarily joining engage with clubs, which is why it's such a big issue for clubs to try and get young people engaging with them.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with clubs sort of being seen to be different. I mean, as long as they're a paid up member, then it's a win sort of thing. It's about making sure that you're providing for your membership, and if you want a younger membership, then you have to be aware that they interact with classics in a different way, enjoy them in a different way, and mend them, fix them, everything you've just said, all in potentially different ways, sort of thing. So
yeah, and for me the value. I mean, maybe I'm preaching to the converted here, but the value of joining a club in what's it, 40 quid, which is, but the way you look at it is either the cost of filling a tank of petrol or the price of I wouldn't even say it's the price of a night out these days. You can get for a whole year all of the expertise you could ever dream of for your particular car, either at the end of a phone call or at the touch of a button.
hmm Yeah, and you never know what that leads to as well. I mean,
Yeah,
now your car's fixed, you've done this and that and the other. Suddenly, that big continental tour that they have organised for later in the year becomes a bit more of a reality. You get to sort of tick that off your box as well, so of your bucket list. So yeah, there's all sorts, and absolutely, it's difficult to quantify in terms of what a club provides for its membership figure, but yeah, it gives as much as you're willing to put into it. I think is the gist of it, isn't it? Don't look at it in terms of just potentially just a magazine and that's about it. You've got to sort of interact with the club to get the most from it, haven't you? So,
absolutely.
cool. I think there's one final story that I wanted to talk about, gents, and that was that Vauxhall fans they've been given one last chance to say goodbye to Griffin House, which for many years was the Mark's former headquarters in Luton. The former Vauxhall site is being redeveloped, and sadly, Griffin House has actually been demolished. I mean, it's one of those things that happens. Development happens all the time. What we can do is sort of applaud the developers because they are making attempts to preserve various elements of the site. One of the most significant being the wheel, which was a prominent feature in the former design studios. That's been repurposed as part of this redevelopment. Gents, what I wanted to do though was just sort of ask you about your memories of the site. I think we've all been there. Vauxhall Heritage was on that site when that was sort of located there. What sort of memories do you have of sort of going there in the past?
Well, well, me and myself and Matt George were lent a Vauxhall PA Velox for to take to the Traversée de Paris a few years ago. So we went to visit the Heritage Collection then, and it was it's so nice to be there. After with all those years of history that the site offered, so to actually go and collect a car and be able to drive something in that condition was fantastic. And yeah, we had a great time taking it to Paris and partaking in the Traversée de Paris, and then obviously bringing it back. And yeah, lovely bench seat, column gear shift. It was 50s gorgeousness in kind of like an aqua blue and white color tone. So it's gorgeous, yeah. But the other cars they had there, everything from kind of Vauxhall Novas to the cars the car I did my driving tests and lessons in. So yeah, it was. I'm so glad I was able to visit it before, obviously, it being um, the, demolished.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be reunited with my favorite car from that from the Vauxhall heritage, because it's now in Gaydon in display in the British Motor Museum, and that's a Cavalier 2000 GLS. It's red with red matching interior. It was the very first press car that I ever drove, and it sort of stood out to me, just the attention I got as I sort of drove out of Luton, and I had borrowed it for a weekend just to sort of do some various write-ups on it, and it was the attention that it got. I parked it in a pub car park, and instantly people came over and wanted to talk to me about it, even making offers to buy. Just the nostalgia that it sort of evoked was really quite genuine, sort of thing. So
didn't you see it again?
Sorry.
Didn't you see it again recently?
As I say, yeah, when we were over at the British Motor Museum, it was up on the foyer bit, sort of thing. So where a number of Vauxhalls are currently on display. So yeah, no, it was great to see it again after many years. So yeah, David, any favourite Vauxhalls?
Yeah, I think one in particular stands out for me, which is one of the oldest cars that Vauxhall had in its heritage collection, which is the 1904 Vauxhall 6 horsepower, which again they used quite a lot for their entries into the London to Brighton veteran car run, and they asked me would I like to have a go in it. And I remember going down to Griffin House. I would love to say they gave me the keys, but of course they didn't have one. So they got this veteran car started up, and they're going to talk. They basically, I remember being effectively in one of the car parks just outside the Luton factory, and they said, okay, well, this is how it works. Kind of talk me through these controls, which are completely alien to somebody who's used to sort of three pedals in particular arrangement, and it was essentially you sort of two different speeds for the car, which were operated in completely different ways. And then they said, okay, well, yeah, it's your turn now. And I remember getting into this. I think onto is probably the better term. And driving around, and I remember getting up to the Goodman's top speed was 18 miles an hour, but it felt about 400 miles an hour going around this car park. And I was there like trying not to bend this beautiful piece of Edwardian heritage around the back of a brand new Insignia. And it was once you got the hang of it, it was good fun. But I just remember it was very rewarding was the thing I remember, and the other thing I remember from that day was it was really cold as well, because it was just before the veteran car runs. But that's probably my favourite abiding memory of the various cars I've driven around that site.
What were the brakes like on it?
What brakes?
Okay.
that's probably again another memory of it. Yeah, it had them, but they were rudimentary to say the least.
Yeah, there's a whole new sort of idea of allowing for stopping distances when you can't stop in the first place. You just need to roll to a halt.
Exactly. That's veteran cars for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, as I say, end of an era, and it is sad, but it is good that the developers are sort of doing what they can to preserve the elements of history, sort of thing. So, I mean, there's sort of a similarity to that in our lead feature in this issue. So this week we look at a similar sort of moment in time. It's 25 years since Ford made the announcement that Dagenham would end car production. It's a really in-depth read from one of our more knowledgeable contributors, Keith Adams, so it's definitely worth a look. I think that sort of takes us towards the end of this week's podcast. Before we leave it there, I just wanted to give a quick promo as to what everyone can expect in next week's issue, which is on sale June 25th. Our lead feature celebrates the 50th anniversary of the Lotus Esprit and lucky son of a gun writer Jesse Billington. He not only gets to sample 4 different examples, but gets to do so by taking them for a blast on track at the home of the British Grand Prix, Silverstone. Contributor Dale Vinton also explains why replacing the heater matrix on his Volvo 940 is, according to him, the worst job that he has ever done. And finally, we're off to Westport in County Mayo, Ireland, where in 1978 there was a bizarre influx of Fiats. David, thank you very much for being with us.
Pleasure, always a joy.
James, you too.
Thank you very much. It's been great.
And we look forward to bringing you another episode next week.